Hey guys, got another 2 stories in one for today's video. The first one is about a guy who left Thailand for the Philippines. The second one is about a guy who was robbed by his Filipina girlfriend. So let's get into the first story. I'd moved to Thailand in 2024. So many vloggers posting videos about how good it was. I had moved sight unseen with high hopes and expectations. While I did like it when I arrived, I was extremely underwhelmed. It was nothing like all the videos I had seen, and seemed to me like an overly expensive, dreadful place. I went to lots of the locations that these so-called influencers raved about, but they all seemed to be already full of expats and tourists, with no room left for newcomers. I was expecting it to feel like a frontier economy, like so many people seemed to claim it to be, but it was far from that. I ended up choosing Pattaya as a place to live. Bangkok was too cosmopolitan and futuristic for my liking. Here I was, hoping for an eastern backwater hardly touched by the west. I guess I was a few decades too late. Pattaya was okay. I got myself a condo for around $300 a month and settled into life. If I'm being perfectly honest, I hated the next 3 months. It almost felt like the country was trying to be something it wasn't, as though it wanted to shift the image away from being this fun free-for-all into a more serious, family-friendly location. This is not why I travelled halfway around the world. Pattaya was still wild, but it felt tolerated as opposed to being the accepted norm. I wanted Pattaya to be praised and bigged up for being the place that it was, not a place that they were trying to change for the overall image of Thailand. As far as I was concerned, Thailand was a place to retire, live a cheap life, and do things I couldn't do at home. Nothing more and nothing less. I felt Thailand could be the amazing place that many people said it was, but it was just that little thing about it that seemed to remove this 100% fun mentality. Sort of like saying you can enjoy yourself, but don't enjoy it too much. One day, I was having a beer and got chatting to a guy who said he loved Thailand. He had just come back from the Philippines and said he likes Thailand a lot more. I was intrigued by a lot of the things he was talking about. The way he talked about the Philippines in a negative light, to me, seemed like it should have been talked about in a positive light. Everything he said made the Philippines sound more appealing than Thailand. I decided to head to the Philippines myself to have a look around as soon as possible. Well, what can I say? Why was I wasting my time in Thailand? As soon as I got to the Philippines, it felt like I thought Thailand was meant to feel. Granted, the nightlife scene wasn't as big, but what was there was more crude and real, and I quickly fell in love with the Philippines almost immediately. Not to mention, they had chains such as Papa John's and lots of other fast food chains available that I missed from home, and they were here in the Philippines, but not in Thailand. The beer was cheaper, and the girls I found to be more beautiful, and the fact that they spoke English was the icing on the cake. I didn't need to be in the Philippines for long for me to decide that it beat Thailand in virtually every single metric that was important to me. I did have one big problem, a problem that I didn't know how I was going to solve. What was I going to do with all my stuff back in my condo in Pattaya? I didn't want to leave it there. I had an expensive computer, clothes, and some other bits and pieces. I resigned myself to the awful fact that I'd have to go and get it. But I knew right here and now that the Philippines was where I belonged. I knew there and then. I reluctantly flew back to Thailand, packed all my stuff up into a big bag, and flew back to the Philippines the very next day. A quick in and out was all that was needed, and flying back to the Philippines felt like I was going home, even though I'd only just been for a small amount of time. I chose to live in Cebu, and I love it here. Great English, great people, grateful people, and a cheap and affordable way of life. The country paints a picture, and a picture I like very much. It simply doesn't compare to Thailand. In every perceivable way, it's better. I just wish the nightlife scene was similar to Pattaya, but we can't have it all, and it's not the end of the world. I know many people seem to prefer Thailand to be a retirement location of choice, but if you're after something that feels like it should feel, the Philippines will be for you, no doubt. The country seems to embrace what it actually is, as opposed to trying to rip up years of how it was, trying to change into something it's not. I think many people will know exactly what I'm talking about here. We didn't leave the West to have Western ways thrust upon us in the East. That completely defeats the object and purpose of retiring halfway around the world. I'm not saying Thailand isn't going to be for everyone. Some people will probably really like it and get on really well with the system. It feels in a way more safe and secure. Not that I feel unsafe in the Philippines, but I feel it's more like the Wild West, which is what I was after when I made the move. I spent so much time watching videos about Thailand, I completely neglected the Philippines, and firmly believe that people who make the videos about Thailand are not being truthful about the actual state of the country that they live in. I know it comes to getting views, and that seems to be the most important thing over and above truth itself. But how people talk about Thailand, I find to be highly inaccurate. For sure, Thailand is trying to be something it's not. It's not difficult to come to this conclusion after you've spent time in the country. I can safely say that the Philippines is not trying to be something it's not. It embraces its backwardness, its affordability, and the ever so real feeling that it gives when you touch down in the country and go and explore. To anyone listening to this, I appreciate you putting this on the channel, but if you are listening, I would say make your way to the Philippines and have a look there instead if you're stuck in Thailand, or you're feeling that Thailand isn't giving you the full experience that you were expecting to get. I must admit, I've heard mixed opinions about the Philippines, but I love it here. That does not seem to be the overall general consensus though. The general consensus seems to paint Thailand as the better of the two options. I think this is for people who are not seeking a real and authentic experience in Southeast Asia. For me, Southeast Asia is meant to provide authenticity and a type of feeling you can't get at home. So, I would take that into consideration and go to the Philippines instead of Thailand every single day of the week and twice on a Sunday. But if you prefer Thailand, that's all good. But I think you'd prefer the Philippines if you gave it a try. You'd think that by the time I hit 40, I'd be too old to fall for something like this. But here I am, telling the story anyway. I learned the hard way. In the Philippines, after what was supposed to be a simple vacation. I was burned out. I run a small IT consulting business in Seattle, and I'd been working non-stop for years. I made good money, but had no life to speak of. I hadn't taken a real break in forever, so I booked a trip on a whim. A buddy of mine had been to the Philippines a number of times and said it was great. Cheap, friendly, great beaches, and beautiful girls. It sounded great to me. I landed in Cebu with no real plan except to relax for a few weeks. The first few days were exactly what I needed. Swimming, cheap beers, quiet mornings, and no work emails. I felt like I could finally breathe again. Working non-stop serves a purpose, but it does get in the way of real living, and I made a commitment to change how I lived life from then on and start to enjoy it more. That's when I met Lisa. She worked at a beach cafe I went to a few times. Not one of those big tourist bars, just a small spot where locals and expats hung out. She was friendly, not over the top or anything, and she was easy to talk to. We started chatting every time I went in. Then we got lunch, then dinner, and I guess you know where it went from there. It all happened so quickly. I liked her a lot. She was sweet, always smiling, and made me feel like I mattered. I'd been divorced for over 10 years by then, and honestly, being around her just felt good. She told me about her family, how she was helping support her mom and younger siblings. I didn't think too much of it. A lot of people in the Philippines have it tough, and she wasn't pushy, wasn't asking for anything, at least not yet. My buddy had spoken to me about warning signs and things to look out for if I did date a girl from the Philippines, and she wasn't showing any of these signs, so I took it that she was one of the good ones. After a couple of weeks, we were basically together every day. I extended my trip and kept extending it. I began to run my company remotely from the Philippines, and things were going great. I didn't need to make as much, and what I did make gave me a better life than making more wood in the States. We even got a small place together. It was nothing fancy, but it was clean and near the beach. I kept working remotely, a few hours a day, and the rest of the time we were just living and enjoying life. That's when the money stuff started, the stuff I'd been warned about. How convenient that she'd waited until I was committed. It was small things at first. She'd say she'd needed help with rent for her mom, or medicine for her aunt, and then her scooter needed a repair. Oh, and then it was school supplies for her cousin. After listening to a lot of stories, it's funny how all the reasons for needing money are so similar. Always just a few thousand pesos here and there. I didn't think much of it. It was like $40-50 a time, so no big deal. As long as she didn't get too greedy, I was prepared to put up with it. But then I started noticing cash going missing from my wallet. At first, I thought it was forgetting how much I'd taken out, but it kept happening. Just a little bit, a couple of 100 pesos here and 1,000 there. It wasn't enough to cause a scene, but it bugged me greatly. I started making notes on my iPhone, just to be sure. I didn't want to think I was imagining things, and I took a note every time I took out cash, and exactly how much cash I had. And when I spent money, down to the last peso, I made a note of how much. Sure enough, the numbers didn't add up. I confronted her, gently, one night, and she started crying. She said she was embarrassed, didn't want to ask me for anything, that she just needed a little help sometimes and didn't know how to bring it up. I let it go. I figured we're basically living together, I'm not broke, and it's for her family, so I can handle it. I would have preferred if she asked me, but looking back, she was basically stealing from me, and I shouldn't have let it go so easily. The thing that changed things the most was when she got pregnant. I was happy about the baby, even though I was scared. I never had kids before, and I was of an age where it was now or never. I had the money to take care of them, and it felt like the right thing to do. I didn't want to pack up and leave and forget about the little incidents of her stealing from me and always asking for things from me. The problem was, the money stuff got worse, and she wasn't trying to hide it. Now it was bills, baby things, stuff for her mom, her siblings. I started noticing late-night texts. Times she said she was going to see family, but would disappear for hours. A friend of mine said that he saw her on the back of another guy's bike one night when she told me she was visiting her sister. I didn't know what to believe. I caught her taking cash from my drawer once. I'd hidden some in a pouch I kept zipped up inside my suitcase. She said it was for baby formula. That night, she went out with friends and didn't come home. We fought a lot. She'd flip it around on me, say I didn't understand Filipino culture, that I was too controlling, that I thought I could buy her. She'd cry, accuse me of not trusting her, and all along I kept trying to fix things, but it was falling apart, and no matter what I did, she wasn't prepared to just settle down and move forward for the benefit of our kid. Eventually, I'm sorry to say, I hit my limit, and I booked a ticket and flew back to the US. We weren't married, but we did have our son, so I still send money for him every month. I talk to my kid on video calls when I can, but it's definitely not the same as being there with him. I regret it every day that I'm not able to be the father I should be, but what could I do? I didn't want to stay in the Philippines alone, and I definitely didn't want to date another Filipina after that first incident. As for Lisa, we barely talk. Just the basics about the kid. She's got her own life now, I guess, and I don't ask questions anymore. It's none of my business. People always ask me if I regret it, and I don't know how to answer that. I regret not being more careful and falling for someone I barely knew, but I definitely don't regret my son. He's the one good thing that came out of everything. Maybe one day, when he's older, I'll bring him to the States, or maybe I'll visit him there and we'll sit down somewhere, just the two of us, and talk about everything. I hope he grows up knowing I tried to do right for him. I hope you share this story on your channel and let guys know that things might be fun, but they can go wrong, and fast, and living with those decisions to this day is something that I have to accept as part of my life. Thank you.